Welcome to the Red Couch and my very special guest today, all the way from Delhi in India, is none other than the current World T20 top female cricketer, and she's none other than Hayley Matthews. Welcome, Hayley Matthews, to this discussion on International Women's Day, and congratulations on your latest award. I think it's a back-to-back performance by you as the world's T20 top female cricketer. Yeah?
Yeah, well, firstly, thanks for having me. But yeah, I've been grateful to get the award in 2023 for the top T20 players. So yeah, just really happy to have a good year in 2023 and hopefully 2024 brings some more success.
Wonderful. All right, so let's get straight to it, Hayley, because I know it's a big time difference where you are at the moment. Is it 12 hours, a 12-hour difference or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's about 10 and a half hours or something like that.
Okay,
so yeah, pretty long.
So we wouldn't want to keep you up and prevent you from getting a good night's sleep and all the rest of it and so on. So now it's a sport that traditionally, up until a few years ago, we didn't pay a lot of attention to female cricketers. Cricket was really seen as a male sport, and girls playing cricket was sort of like not the done thing. I know you won't know that I know this, but I know that you came up in a cricketing family because I did too. And I know that your dad and your uncle also played cricket at YMPC, where my stepdad played cricket. And that's where I played cricket too as well as a kid growing up. And I guess if I didn't become a broadcaster, I harbored thoughts about being a professional cricketer. So that would have been my fallback position. Anyhow, I'm glad I never had to put that to the test. But we're very proud of you and your achievements. But I know you grew up in a cricketing family. I know that much. But tell me, how did you get involved? And obviously, as a very young person, you got involved at an even earlier age.
Yeah, so essentially, not that I remember fully, but my dad told me probably when I was about 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old. He used to be outside with my brother as he played as a young kid as well. And I just started coming outside one day and picked up a cricket bat, had a few swings at the ball. Obviously, no technique at that age, but just enjoying being out with the bat and ball in hand. And my father used to play first division, was no elite cricket in Barbados. So every weekend, my brother and I would head down to Pickwick Cricket Club, which is now Kensington Oval. That used to be their home ground back in the days. And every Saturday, I'd be out there, and a lot of his teammates, the likes of Tino Best and a lot of the other guys that he played with, used to have to come outside and throw balls at me at lunchtime. And yeah, I think that's kind of how I was just able to fall in love with the game at such a young age, just being around it, experiencing it in Barbados every weekend, and falling in love with it, really.
Your dad was a wicketkeeper batsman, wasn't he?
No, actually, he was a batter who started out as a pacer, but I think as the years rolled on, he had to kind of turn into a spinner. The fitness couldn't quite keep up with it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So would you say that influence of having your dad and other members of your family playing elite cricket, that was a big influence for you? I mean, what if your dad wasn't playing cricket? You think you would still have developed a passion for it?
I don't think so, to be honest. I think I grew up playing and loving the sport because I was around it so much, and I had such a big cricketing influence around me. And like you said at the beginning, women's sports and women's cricket wasn't what it is now, where when you turn on your TV, you're going to see women playing cricket. So I definitely feel as though if it weren't for my dad and my brother being around and playing, and with it being in my family so much, I couldn't see how I would have possibly fallen in love with the game.
What is life like for an international professional women's cricketer? So I know what it's like in a sense for the men, but are there things that are unique to people? Are they taking the sport serious enough, you think, in your view? and are the opportunities there? I mean, you're right now in India, so I'm sure that opportunities have come your way. So tell me a little bit about life for a professional women's cricketer.
Yeah, well, look, I think over the last, I've been playing international cricket now for 10 years. And I've been able to firsthand see the changes over the past 10 years. And I think obviously the women's sport has been growing at a very quick rate, and one of the fastest growing industries in the world. And um, for me, over the past few years, I've watched it grow from level to level. And now there's almost no comparison when it comes to the opportunities available in the men's game. You have international cricket right all year round. Franchise cricket, there's so many tournaments growing now. You've got the women's IPL, which I'm down here playing, the 100 in England, the Big Bash in Australia, the women's CPL was started now 2 years ago, and the leagues just keep growing and growing to a point now where you almost have to start turning down certain competitions just to get some free time on your hands. So I think because of such the quick rate of the sport growing, is definitely bringing about so much more opportunity than there was before.
What are your favorite parts of the game? Are you do you prefer being a batter? What if you have a choice? What is your what if is your preference?
You know, the answer I like to give a lot of time is whatever going best on the day. I think as a all rounder, especially in cricket nowadays where people score 200 runs, you can either be scoring the 200 or the 200 could be getting scored off of you. So I like bowling when it going well, and I like batting when it going well. And if both going well on the day, then I glad to be all rounder that day.
I see. Well, that's a brilliant answer. Whatever is working on the particular day. And what about fitness? Now, tell me what part fitness plays for you, and what is your regimen like and your routine? Because obviously, you're still a very young person, and I'm sure you want to party and do all the things that your friends do and everybody else is doing. But there must be sacrifices that sometimes you have to make in preference for your preparation and so on as a professional athlete.
Yeah, for sure. I think what's really important for me now, and I think what's really crucial and really helpful at the same time, is the fact that we pretty much know our schedule for the entire year from the beginning of the year. So for me, it's about looking at my planning for the year, deciding when I've got a bit of time to probably relax, spend some time at home in Barbados, have a good time. As you know, us West Indians and us Barbadians still like to get back home and have a good time. But then just be able to stay really disciplined in the times that I know I've got to put in the work and be really disciplined. Like you said, cricket is a sport where when you're playing it so often, you've got to be able to stay fit to keep up, and especially when the schedule is so hectic. There's so many injuries and little niggles that could come about simply from not being fit enough. So I think for me, the biggest thing is just planning my entire year out, and then having to stay really disciplined with that plan, hoping that no injuries come about. And if they do, just having a chat with the trainer, having a chat with the physios, and trying to find the best solution around it to be able to get back on the park and keep going.
And in terms of that support for your fitness regimen and so on, yeah, I would take it that you interact more than the ordinary person with the physios and the trainers.
Yeah, well, we have full-time S&Cs and physios on board with the West Indies women's team. And I think as the sport grows, that's something that's grown with us as well. I think when we first started out, we probably didn't have the same access to just have full-time physios and have full-time S&Cs with programs all around. Whereas now I have apps on my phone where I pull up and I have my rehab program that I have to do 3 times a week. I have my gym program that I have to do 2 or 3 times a week during competition. Outside of competition, I might have 4 or 5 gym sessions a week and some running in between there. So the access to it is a lot easier now. And there's definitely a lot more support around you. Even when I come off to these franchise tournaments, every single time our local physio and S&C in the West Indies have to almost do a player handover to the physio and the S&Cs here in the different franchise leagues and say, hey, this is what's happening with Hayley. This is the program we have her on. And as the competition is over and I'm heading back home, they have to send back all the information around what I was doing, what's going on with my body, what niggles I might have picked up, or how my recovery might have been going, and send it back to the West Indies that I can continue from there.
What's an S&C, if you don't mind my asking a stupid question?
Yeah, no, you're all good. That's a strength and conditioning coach.
Strength and conditioning. All right. So you have gyms wherever you go, and you laid out a very disciplined, a very intense regimen. It sounded to me like. So there are obviously times when you're doing cardio, and there are times when you're doing weights, and then of course massage and muscle strengthening and all that sort of stuff and so on. Fascinating. Yeah.
So it just all depends on the scheduling, and if you're in or out of competition, the gym programs and the running and the training would obviously be a lot more hectic while we're not playing. And then whilst in competition, you try to tone it down a bit and just maintain a fitness level as you want to be really fresh for games.
So you really, outside of the actual competition, you're building up, you're making sure you stay fit and that kind of stuff. But as you just said, when the actual competition is on, you're doing a whole heap of running, fielding, bending, stretching, sliding, all the rest of it. So you don't need as much as when you're out of competition. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned a couple minutes ago the desire, like every other person, to want to party and enjoy life and so on. So when you are not playing professional cricket and you're partying, what is your vibe? What is that you like to do?
Honestly, I love being home. Every opportunity that I get to be in Barbados, I try to get back as much as possible. And I'm like any 20, 25-year-old that they go on the island. I like to go out. I like to go to parties. I like to go on a cruise here and there and just have a good time. Unfortunately, the 100 competition in England stops me from being home every single crop over for the last 7 years. But yeah, I try to always, yeah, exactly. But I still try to find an event to go to every time I'm home. I still just never forget the culture. I grew up as a West Indian girl, from small island in Barbados, and I just try to carry that culture around everywhere I go.
Do you find you're recognized a lot wherever you go now? You get a lot more recognition, facial recognition. People know who you are.
Just depends on the different areas of the world. In India, for sure, I know here in India, something as simple as going to the mall or going into town, there are going to be a lot of people just coming around asking for photos. Certainly when I back home as well, I can't tell you the last day I've been somewhere and haven't had people come up to me and speak, which I'm all really grateful for. So yeah, I think it just depends on where we are. Obviously, places like England, maybe Australia, you're not gonna find every single person knowing who you are and what you do. So
now, as a very young person, still, did you at a much earlier age, when you first started going out with your dad and your brother and so on, and playing cricket, in the backyard and that kind of stuff and so on, did you ever envisage that one day you could be doing what you're doing now, as a professional cricketer? Did you see that in that far back?
I think, if I'm being honest, from the time I was probably about 10 years old, my dream was to be a professional cricket player. And what I would say I couldn't see then was the life I'm able to now live as a professional cricketer, as a female professional cricketer, I should say. The game has taken off much bigger and much more than myself or probably anybody that was watching women's sport back there could ever imagine. So yeah, I certainly did want to be a professional cricketer, but super grateful for not only getting the opportunity to do that, but I think the opportunities that is then brought about with how much the game has grown as well.
Fantastic. Now, as a trailblazer, and whether you see yourself as that or not, that's the reality of who you are and what you are. And we're all very proud of you as Barbadians when we read of your exploits and so on. And we know that in professional sports, as in any other sport, every day is not, you're not always going to be a peak performance. You're not always going to get the nod from the umpire. You're not always going to do well. But the reality is that you have done exceptionally well overall. And as a professional female cricketer, you must, sports person, because you're more than just a cricketer. You're in sports. How do you think you line up as a? Do you see yourself as a role model for other young women out there who may be struggling with the idea of what could I do? And if you do see yourself in that capacity, my follow-up question is, how do you think that you could, what would you say to a young girl who's maybe 10 or 12 years old now, who is looking at her options and thinking, well, you know, this lawyer, accountant, architect, engineer, whatever, and so on. But could you kind of paint a picture for that young person, that young female who may be struggling to say, well, what is there out there for me?
Yeah, well, firstly, I would say that I do see myself as a role model, and simply because of the fact that I have a platform, and I have an opportunity to be seen by a lot of not only young girls, but by a lot of females on a whole, a lot of people on a whole. And I know that I could make a massive impact on a lot of people's lives by setting good examples. And yeah, then at the same time, with the follow-up question, I think the thing that was biggest for me was following my heart and doing what I love. And like I said before, I could have never imagined that it would have taken me where I am today. So yeah, any message that I would ever have for any young girl, no matter what that career be, like you said, it could be engineering, it could be wanting to be a doctor, it could be wanting to be an athlete or a cricketer. Is follow your heart and follow your dream. You don't know where it's gonna take you, but for me, following mine was the best decision I ever made in my life. And I would never discourage anyone from doing that.
Wonderful. That's a beautiful answer, Hayley, and I thank you for that, because like you, I knew at 10 years old that I wanted to be a broadcaster. More importantly, I got to do it at a very early age too as well. So I know that a lot of luck came my way, and I was able to grab the opportunity. But I've also met a lot of people in their 40s and sometimes even older or younger, who say to me they're in other careers, and they always say things like, you know, I really wanted to be a broadcaster, but I never got that opportunity. So you've got the opportunity to live your dream, as indeed I had the opportunity to live mine. So I think we're both fortunate and blessed in many respects. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So my final question as I bring it home to you, Hayley, is International Women's Day. Do you have a concept as to what this means to you? How important you think is highlighting International Women's Day and highlighting the careers of people like yourself who are out there blazing a trail in what traditionally was a man's field for well over 100 years, and challenging it?
Yeah, I think it's huge. It's about celebrating women, and celebrating the milestones that women are now hitting. And every day we see things in the real world, we see things online of women going out, trailblazing, like you said, and just breaking new barriers, doing things that were once only known as a man's field, and just setting examples in so many other ways. Like I said, breaking barriers in women's fields and in men's fields, and just pushing forward and doing more than so many people expected. So, well, I think anytime we get the opportunity to go out there and celebrate women, let's do it, because we're doing things that are absolutely taking over the world now. You're seeing women at the tops of so many businesses, so many careers, so many fields, and why not celebrate it should be the real question.
Wonderful. I'm going to leave it there. Why not celebrate it? Because I think that's a perfect note on which to end this small chat. I want to thank you on behalf of Capital Media and on behalf of all of the women, young and not so young, who will see this and follow your career. I think people like yourself have made tremendous impact on the world of cricket. There've been some changes. Some are small. I noticed now commentators refer to batters rather than batsmen.
Yes.
It's a subtle change, but an important one nonetheless. So I hope that when you get back to Barbados on your next trip, that you will come on the official red couch down at Capital Media, and let's do a follow-up interview with you, because I do think you're a fascinating person, and I'd love to dig a little bit deeper and have a little bit more of a chat with you on your successes and your exploits in the field of sports.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna be back home in April or March, so we gotta make sure and get that in the calendar and lock that in.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Hayley Matthews, World T20 #1 cricketer, currently out in Delhi, and we wish you continued success. I'm somewhat jealous because my father-in-law is from India, and India and its culture has always fascinated me, and it's a journey that I want to make too as well, and to enjoy the food, the culture, the history, and all of the amazing things that India offers. So thank you for sharing your time with us. Continue to enjoy your stay in India, and we look forward to chatting with you very soon again on the Red Couch.